Deborah is going to lead us all in our chalice lighting. And if you have a chalice, please join Deborah and she'll do the reading as well.
A tribute to Elder Tree and each of you who has made this possible and sustained it through unprecedented times. So we light our chalices. I chose two readings this morning from Parker Palmer, who is one of my favorite authors of all times, and indeed he is his own elder at this point. And some of the things he writes are, in former times, our elders were keepers of wisdom and were our leaders through times of change and evolution. They kept hold of the stories that kept communities and society safe and provided touchstones for well-being and a sense of identity. True elders are soul travelers, not just chronologically, but also spiritually and intellectually, reaching back and reaching forward, reaching in and reaching out to the world and the human ecology that connects us. I love that. And then this is the one other thing he said. He's just so brilliant with his words. He said, all my life, I've been blessed with elders who have served as models of grace, generosity, resilience, and wisdom. They offered me previews of coming attractions that made me want to hang around long enough to see the whole movie.
Nice.
Thank you, Deborah. Those are great and very timely. So as you know, this is our last meeting of the season. And when we set it up, and as you saw in the newsletter, we asked you to come and to have everyone participate rather than one speaker or one idea. And so we wanted you to share today. First of all, we'll start with Howie wearing a costume, what that signifies for you, maybe a precious memory that this year has brought, or if somebody's story particularly touched you, something you may have learned about yourself, maybe like how to use Zoom. Any kind of a spiritual evolution or understanding. So it's really up to you, and we'll do that for as long as people have things to say. And then toward the end, we'd like to maybe look toward the future a little bit and see what people's thoughts are for what's coming next after the summer. And of course, we'll be in contact with you during the summer by email. But I would ask that when you're not speaking, if you would mute yourself, that would be great. And to use the reaction button to let us know when you have something you'd like to share. So I'm going to call on Howie first, because I think if he has to stay in that, he probably won't make it till the end of the meeting. So Howie, why don't you go ahead? And then from there, we'll take it as people wish to speak.
Thanks, Ruth. Actually, Larry and Cass anticipated what I was going to begin speaking about, which is the mask. Because I think the mask has been both, in the time of COVID, has been both a literal and symbolic feature of our lives. That the last 2 years of Elder Tree for me has coincided with COVID. And I don't know if Elder Tree would have continued or occurred the same way without COVID or not. But literally we had to wear masks these last 2 years, but at Elder Tree, we didn't, because we were online, and therefore we could see each other's full faces. But the mask was not just a COVID mask to protect ourselves these 2 years. The mask seemed, for me, was symbolic of how all of us, by definition, to some extent, approach the world. The world others see us, they see some of us. They see, they see this section, but they don't see all of us. So we have partial knowledge of one another, and Elder Tree enabled us to come out from behind our masks. Thank you. And so we could see more of each other. And that for me has been, a really wonderful thing about Elder Tree, that I've learned so much more about each of us, than I possibly could have over a course of a year or 2 years or more, in the way we normally get to interact. So it's been a very rich experience to be invited to put some of our masks aside, or peel some of our masks off, and reveal ourselves, and more than we might otherwise have, and learn about others more than we would have. So for me, Elder Tree has really helped me feel connected to you and to First Unitarian in a way that I really value. From the time that Libby, when I first started to attend Elder Tree a couple of years ago, from the time that she would just say, "Good morning, Howie," at the beginning of each session, as a new member of the church, relatively new member of the church at that time, just to have her say my name in the group was meaningful. Actually, it felt more than perfunctory. It felt like I was welcome here. And early on, I got to tell my story, and of course that helped me feel connected, so that I was known more, and I had shared what was important to me. And then this year, when I got to share the story of my daughter Kamara and how she came over to us from Korea during the Olympics, to have everybody so appreciative and moved by that story, again, helped me feel more connected than ever before. So for me, Elder Tree has been one of the major vehicle, or let's say a major vehicle, that has helped me feel like I can say I'm a member of First Unitarian, and have a level of meaning it would not have otherwise. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Howie. John?
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
I have a regret in the sense that I didn't tune in to the Elder Tree sooner. I think the only first time I joined or started to participate was early April, when I was invited to speak. And I don't know, it seemed like Saturday mornings were always a busy time. That's one of the mornings that Sue and I do the house cleaning, and Lord knows we need that every day. So, it was just more difficult to attend, I guess, on Saturdays, until I really made a point of doing it. And the value that I got out of it was the real value in staying connected with people. And I think Howie said it well. It's good to see everybody's face, and another thing, at least that, one thing that I did learn was the value of name tags. They were a lifesaver on more than one occasion during the pandemic. So it was nice not to have to wear masks here at Elder Tree and see so many people. So that was good. I'm wearing today. I'm wearing. I mentioned in my presentation that I've been a lifelong railroad fan. So I got my railroad hat here, and I got this railroad jacket on, and behind me is the new railroad bridge over the gorge at yeah, Letchworth Park. And so I thought that that's kind of symbolic of part of my life. And I'm just glad that I've been able to listen to all the stories that I was able to listen to in the short period of time. I feel that those that I have heard, I've learned a lot about you. It confirms to me what a caring, loving community this is, and how happy I am to be a part of it. And just to thank everyone, and especially the elder buddies for keeping all this going, and hopefully we can continue in some form next year, as hopefully we come out of the pandemic and we're able to get back together in person. So that's it for me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, John. Anyone else have thoughts about any of our questions? No? Well, I could give one. I certainly share the idea of connection, and have looked forward so much to being with everybody on Saturday mornings. As I thought back on the presentations, Mary Palmer's came very quickly to mind, because it so differed from my expectation. I don't know if Mary is here today. I didn't see if she was. No. But she was speaking about her days as a nun. And I thought that she might have some jokes about it, or having left that life, look back on it less positively. Of course, I wasn't really thinking that Mary is anybody that would do that, but her positive approach to each of the three, or maybe there were 5 women that affected her during those years, made me think very much of this church, where so many things are difficult in the world, but I always have a sense that at First Unitarian, we look at things in a very positive way and try to find the thing that we can grow with, or learn from. I remember Scott Taylor once in a sermon, which has stuck with me, saying, when there's loss, it's important to mourn the loss, but then to move as you can to what's left rather than what's lost. And I think Mary's talk kind of personalized that for me. So that's something I think about. My scarf is just this really pretty scarf that I bought just before the pandemic, thinking whenever I wanted to get dressed up, I could wear it, and I have never worn it. Because I have never gotten dressed up, so here it is. So that's, and I'm grateful to all of you for being together with us, and for all of us being together. Anne, looks like you're next.
Hi. Well, I'm very grateful for the for this. I am wearing my heart, and this elder tree has offered me a way through the pandemic period. It's been wonderful to connect with all of you during these 2 years. And I also, I finally found the courage to tell my story, and that was amazing. I was very glad that I did. It was scary for me to do, and I did, and so it helped increase my confidence more. And sort of I came out as being a survival of emotional abuse, and to I don't know, I hadn't shared that before, so it's sort of cool. And so I just wrote a few words down: grateful, loving, listening, inspiring, proud, confidence, coming out of my shell. So, and I want to thank the elder buddies also for a great job. And I'm very grateful for this group. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd
Thank
like
you,
to say something. Hello?
Annette, did
Yes,
you want to speak, Annette?
yes, please.
Go ahead, and then we'll get
I-
to Anita.
I should have mentioned this before when we were talking about sorrows and stuff. About 9 weeks ago, I started going to the Arundecoit Center, which is a 40,000 square foot place next to the old mall on Ridge Road. It's just incredible. So there's a lot of nice things over there. The staff is wonderful. They have all kinds of activities. You name it, they've got it. Pickleball, basketball, art, exercise, everything. And I go to lunches there. So this has never happened to me in my life. I've been shunned by several people. There are people that won't talk to me, won't look at me, and I've never been in this situation. I've always got along with anybody. They finally told me why they were upset with me. I don't know if you know this about me, but I tend to rub people's shoulders and neck and stuff like that. So this week they told me the reason they were mad at me or upset with me is because they think that by doing that I'm spreading the COVID.
Oh.
And I'm just a crazy thing to happen. I mean, when you go up, the first time I went up to a table when I went there, they wouldn't let me sit down. They told me that chair was reserved for somebody. I have never been in this kind of situation. I have never said anything to argue with anybody or anything. But I just wanted to say this because, as I said, the COVID has been very isolating to me as far as the neighborhood and all the restrictions we've had. And I really appreciate the elder tree because we can touch. But I mean, there's been so much separation in over 2 years that I don't feel like connected to the church anymore because of that. But I just wanted to say that out loud, that this shunning and stuff, I've never had that happen to me. I don't know, how cruel could someone be that they don't look at me, they don't talk to me, and there's not a lot of people there. So if 6 women won't talk to you or won't look at you or won't let you sit down, it's just been crazy. And I did bring it to the supervision there, and she said she was going to do something about passing out behavior notes and something, and she never did. But it's been just very difficult. Thank you for listening.
Annette, I'm really sorry that happened to you. And if there's any way that we can be supportive through church, I hope that I know you said you don't feel connected to church, but we have the pastoral care team and a caring community. And I'm sure that we would be happy to reach out to you. So if you think that would be helpful in helping you deal with this, I hope that you will reach to church and let us know.
Another reminder, I'm on the phone, so when you guys talk, I don't know who you are.
Oh, it's Ruth.
Like you
I'm
just
sorry.
said something. Ruth what?
Ruth Myers.
But as I said, that name doesn't mean a thing to me. I've been separated so long that I don't know who that is.
All right, we'll be in touch with you, Annette. After the meeting, we'll be in touch with you, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anita? You're muted, Anita.
Mute. Okay, a couple of things. I decided to do my story even though I hadn't necessarily participated or heard other people's story, because I felt that it was a good thing for me to do, to pull all that information together, because if I ever passed away, nobody would know that in that particular way that it was presented. And since my memorial service will probably be at church, I thought that would be a helpful thing to have all that information together. And then after I came, I really realized what I had missed. And when we were talking, when Libby was talking about putting this program together, and if everybody was interested in helping, I sort of jumped right in. And there Ruth and Mary and Deborah, I guess, had already been sort of tapped or involved, and I said, yes, I'll do this. And then when we started, I thought, oh my goodness, what did I volunteer to do? You know, it was like, oh my word. And I really had been isolated quite a bit. And everybody was just wonderful. They kind of stepped in to help me through my technical ineptitude. And at first I was really, you know, it was difficult for me to talk, but because I've done this in the past in my jobs, it became easier and as I went along. So I think that part of the process was working with all of the other elder buddies, and I think they're really great. And I think that it was amazing how we all sort of gelled and shared our skills. So thank you everyone for that. Let's see, a couple of things. My hat I'm wearing, I got this hat at North Miami Beach when I was there over 10 years ago. That was one of the places I always wanted to go when we were there, and I didn't have a sun hat and I really needed one, and I bought it for that. And then a couple years ago, I was doing flowers at church and I used it in the decor for Mother's Day. So it's still holding up, and it's kind of fun. And then all of the stories have impressed me, and I was really amazed at all the things that I could feel connected to and tied into other people's lives. Like after a while, I recognized Howie, and I had been to Sagamore several times, so that was really neat. It's been a while, but brought back all those great memories. And when Anne talked about, I hope I've got the correct person, her family and the place that they had, I think it was in New Hampshire that they met periodically. At first I was jealous, and then I realized that I had that in my own way in other places, because three of my aunts lived in the Catskill Mountains in a little town called Walton. And I had gone there, and we met there, and that was a very special place every time we went there in my life. And so it was nice to tie all of that together. And I was amazed to find out that Sue Morgan was in the area of the Women's Peace Encampment and talked about the incident of the one time that I spent a night there. So it's been really a great experience to make those connections. So I've appreciated being a leader and what I've learned doing that, and also listening to everyone.
Thanks, Anita. Anybody else have anything they would like to share with the group? Deborah.
Reactions.
Deborah, go ahead.
Well, like Ann Tease, I wore this giant heart around my neck because Elder Tree has just opened my heart. I mean, my heart was already at church, but I've gotten to know people that I might see on a Sunday or might recognize from some reason, but gotten to really know them. And I am so, so grateful. And I have learned with increasing respect every week about the rich and diverse set of skills and talents and personalities and vocations and avocations of this amazing community and what they all bring to the church. And so I am so grateful for that. And the other part is that during the pandemic, when things were so awful, it just delighted me and brought color into my life and laughter and fun, that I had Saturday mornings to look forward to and to get to know each of you better. And so I am so very grateful for that, for Reverend Libby, Sherry tapping Libby, leading it for 2 years, solo, amazing, and to the elder buddies and each of you who have made this possible. So thank you.
Cass? You're muted.
Here's another hat. Deborah, I remember you just saying after I'd been scared to give my presentation as well. And after you just you made me feel, I felt so accepted. You said, I have some of those same feelings. And then the other day I called you Betsy in church, and you're okay with that. I don't know. So, Howie, I was so surprised to learn that you were the author of the book that is so dog-eared in my basement right now, Values Clarification. It just like, oh my gosh, I had to run down and get it because that's something I had used in the classroom and really appreciated. And Colleen, you had all those cool pictures and 2 whole parts of your life. I think 2 whole sessions with so much to tell, so much to share. I don't know, I could go through a lot of you, but where's my, yes, get the gallery here. It's so nice to see you all. And Anne, I appreciated so much your reckoning with some issues that were difficult for you. We all come from different places, and it's so wonderful to be able to share that. The one that I was scared to talk about was the way my mom felt about us joining the Unitarian Church, and yet she was wonderfully accepting, I think, in the sense of letting us do what we do. But so it's scary sometimes, but thank you all for all of the parts of yourselves.
And I would just add that it certainly was remarkable to me, the diversity of backgrounds and how we all come from so many different kinds of places, and how we can turn out to be caring kinds of people from all those different kinds of places, how we can bring different points of view to that are worthy of our attention. That's all so nice. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything that you'd like to share with the group this morning?
Just wanted to
Suzanne, did you want to say something?
say, am I muted?
No, you're good.
Okay. I just want to say thank you to the people, Libby, and then all the rest of you who took it over too. And the one I can't help but mention is Colleen's, the first half of Colleen's. I think we should do that one again someday. That was just so memorable. And her daughter too is a delightful person. But I think we could just keep on with the biographies. I'm still not ready to do mine, but there's a lot of people that I wish would do a biography. All the different people who work at the church. There's just, what about Dick Gilbert? You know, some of the ones that we know from other places and all. The biographies are endlessly interesting. Mainly, I want to say thank you to those of you who are going to pick it up again in the fall.
Great. Thank you, Suzanne. Jane.
Okay. I want to thank all of the elder buddies for carrying on this wonderful tradition, which really has kept us all together during this COVID time of isolation. Otherwise, I loved getting to know all of you who've shared your stories, and thank you for listening to my story. I really loved having Dick Gilbert. I know lots of us who have been here for years and decades resonated to his time with us, which was amazing. And also Gregory's presentation last week was really very helpful. And in terms of engagement, staying engaged with the church, it's such a wonderful institution. So thank you all. That's all.
Thank you, Jane. Anybody else have any observations? John, you're back. You're muted, John. John, you're muted.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
I should have mentioned it earlier, but when Ann Teese mentioned that it was difficult for her to give her presentation and address some difficult parts of her life, you know, as probably a lot of us did. And the thing that I think stays with me is the wonderful feedback that I got, the reception that I got for my presentation, either through emails or hugs at church or whatever it was. It was just wonderful to receive that from everyone, and it was really very much appreciated. And I think that's why we're all here. That's why we are the community we are. We support one another. We hear each other. We can, in many cases, relate to each other's stories, and we know from where you come and walked in your shoes. And it means a lot to me, and I'm sure to a lot of us. So I just wanna add that on. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, John. Betsy?
Hi, thank you, Ruth. This is Betsy Stewart. I agree with so much of what everyone else has already said. The diversity of experiences that we've heard about has been fascinating. I've been particularly struck with that within any one individual's story, there have been so many chapters within that one life and so many different aspects of what makes up that one person who's telling his or her story. And that's just been fascinating to me. And it's really made me appreciate the complexity of any one individual's life. I've also been very struck by the degree of commitment and purpose-driven that I've heard in so many of our stories. I had occasion recently to go to the statistical tables to figure out what the average lifespan is for somebody of such as me, somebody of my age and gender, etc. And I thought, okay, so statistically, I have X number of years on average to continue to be alive on this earth. And the first thing that came to my mind was, that's a lot of time. I could still do quite a bit, and between listening to people's stories here every week, and of course the pandemic, and the last 6-7 years of politics, all of that has really coalesced for me to think very deeply about what I want for not just for myself, but what I want to be able to do and to give back to the community and to this world. And hearing people's individual stories has really helped me think about that in a more pragmatic and realistic way. And as a number of you have said this morning, maybe you were a little hesitant to share your story initially. I know I certainly was, but I think it was a useful exercise for me personally. And I'm so appreciative that people listened and had such interesting comments to make afterwards. That impressed me, that people actually were interested in hearing. So thank you for that.
Great, thank you, Betsy. Anybody else have any thoughts you'd like to share?
Let's see.
Ann, did you have?
Yeah, Ann Teese. I'd like to follow Betsy's lead on maybe saying our full name when we first start talking, to help Annette and other people on the phone visualize what's happening better. So that's all. So I think that's a good idea. Say your name before you start talking.
Very nice. Anybody else want to speak? Yeah. Mary, did you want to speak? You're muted, Mary.
Patty Clark had her hand up. then I can go.
Oh, sorry, Patty. Go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Patty Clark. I wanted to just say that Shannon Foos and Melissa Boyack are both have meal schedules. Melissa's has been expanded. So if anybody has, I hope everybody has gotten it. I have to say that the TakeThemAmeal.com has changed their format, and I'm finding it extremely difficult. So I'm going to try to reach out to them and see if I can either get clarification with a voice or with an email. So hopefully the expanded schedule has gone out to everybody. I think some of you are on the list, so you can let me know with an email if you have or have not. I don't have any more details on Melissa other than they're doing testing. And last I spoke with Mike, there was nothing definitive yet. So I guess we'll just sit back and be supportive and take the lead from them. Other than that, a funny thing, I took dinner to them a week ago, Friday, and Saturday morning, it was interesting because Mike had said to me, well, why don't you come in and say hello to Melissa? And something in me just said, no, you know, they weren't prepared for a visit. I'm just not going to go in. And they have quite a few stairs to get to their front door, and stairs are not always my friends. So I declined, and Saturday morning came down with this head cold, and Sunday tested positive for COVID. So I was so glad. I texted Mike back and said, all week, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And then finally confessed to him that we had dodged a bullet. And I'm just so grateful that I never went in, because you don't, when you are most contagious, you don't know. And that's the one thing about COVID that nobody really thinks about, I think, is that it's a ticking time bomb behind the scenes. So anyway, I did very well. I took the antiviral medicine. I qualified for that. So it basically was a lousy head cold. And but my doctor looked at me through Zoom and said, but it's not a head cold.
Mm.
So, you know, you think to yourself, this is no different than what I have had all my life when I've had a cold. And so I was very grateful. I'm very grateful for the vaccine and the booster, because I feel it saved my life. Other than that, I've enjoyed everybody's stories. You see yourself and don't see yourself in everybody's stories. You get to know people better. You see people in a different light. I mean, they're people I've seen forever and ever at church. And now that I've heard their stories, I look into their eyes and see someone totally different. And it creates a much better understanding between all of us. So I'm very grateful for that. And that's it. It's somebody else's turn now.
Thank you, Patty. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else that I'm missing? Mary.
So I changed my necklace from last week. Last week it was lanterns. This morning it's stars, in honor of the stars that we've heard from in the firmament of First Unitarian over this last year. My comment relates to what I've said to you before, that I only joined the church this last fall. And but I had been attending and had heard Reverend Joel talk about the history of the congregation. And of course, recently we heard Bill Folgate talk about the history of the building. What Elder Tree has meant to me has been a lot about belonging, partly because of COVID, of course, that belonging to we all belong to boards and clubs and churches and other social organizations, and it becomes a part of our identity. But of course, during COVID, we haven't been able necessarily to gather in those communities. But here on Saturday mornings, part of the church was able to gather face to face, as it were, each week. And I have learned from you, as you've told your stories, much more about the history of the church in the middle ground, some time ago, not exactly current, but not the past with Susan B. and other stars in our firmament. And it's meant a lot to me in terms of feeling more like I belong to the church. It's, you know, having you tell the stories of trips together, canoeing, and some antics in the Adirondacks. Stories of building the playground have come up often as a beloved community, that activity you shared. Dramatic presentations, hearing Dick Gilbert, who has been referred to many times, but actually having a little experience of him myself. Having Jenny Gall call out as one of her favorite poems, the Marge Piercy poem that I put into your emails, which is one of my favorites of all time. All of those things have enabled me to feel like I belong to First Unitarian in a way that before I was a member of Elder Tree, I didn't feel before. And so I'm really grateful for that sense of belonging and that sense, a longer sense of history for the church. And I thank all of you for that.
Thank you, Mary. Heartfelt words, of course. I think what I'd like to do, with no one else's hand raised, is just take a few minutes to talk about what comes next. And the elder buddies, there are 4 of us, have talked a little bit about this. Haven't come to any firm thoughts for ourselves. We will be meeting during the summer with Reverend Sherry to see what kind of support the church may be willing. You know, they had given us Libby Moore or she took it on. The 4 of us have done it because we wanted to, and I, for myself, can say it's been a very rewarding and wonderful experience getting to know the other 3 ladies and getting more involved with all of you. So it's been great. But I guess we're really interested in your thoughts for the future. One person did say that she'd like to hear more stories. I think one of the questions would be, you know, are stories more stories if we can find them? I mean, we've gotten all the ones that people have offered. We can't really force anyone, but we could certainly look further. There's a couple of hands up. Let's see. Glenn, let's let you go first.
What I had a few things to suggest. Perhaps next year, once or twice a year, it might be nice to have a state of the church person like Sherry or AJ or the president of the board. Just fill in what's going on with the church in more detail than what we might otherwise not know about. Secondly, I'd like to hopefully expand this a little bit to more than just the 20 of us regulars, 20 or 30 regulars. And maybe the name Elder Tree is a turnoff for some of the rest of the congregation. But it'd be nice to involve more people of different ages. And there's more stories to learn about all of us, certainly. I'm a big proponent of church history. I think it needs to be said over and over again. And that's what elders do. They pass on experience and knowledge, but it needs to be repeated for the benefit of the newcomers that come in who don't know about our history. And be nice to hear from AJ Van Tyne. I've known very little about him since we experienced church by Zoom only. I have not met him personally. So those are my 4 suggestions.
Okay, great. I've got them down. Thank you, Glenn. John, you have your hand up?
Yeah, is this a good time to talk about ideas for meeting? How we physically meet next year?
Sure.
Well, my thought was to see where we are in the fall with the COVID deal. Just to assess that situation with people's comfort levels, and to meet on Zoom for our first meeting, first month, maybe our second, see where we are, and then make a decision as to whether we want to stay on Zoom or move to some sort of an in-person situation. I think a lot of it depends on folks' comfort levels. And for one, I think, you know, as nice as it is to be in person, Zoom is really convenient. We're all busy, and Saturday mornings, as I mentioned, is a busy time for me, and it's easier to come up here at 9:55 or something and sit here for an hour and 10 minutes rather than the 2 hours it would take to come to church and all that. So it's just something to consider. I'm not, just put that in the pot and stir it around a little bit and see what comes out next fall.
Okay. Thank you, John. Jane?
I agree with John for the other reason being we've been able to record the sessions that folks have to miss for whatever reason. Like this one, I'm really glad we're recording this one because I know we're competing with a safe space training that a lot of people hadn't had the chance to attend. It went from 9 to 11. I declined because I have to head downtown, but also I've been to a couple of those and they're great. But anyway, bottom line, it's nice when we have these recorded. If we meet in person, it's a little trickier to record the sessions. That's another thought.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts about, I think during the summer, we'll send out a survey to all of you that will ask, number one, if you're interested in continuing as a group this way. It sounds like many of you are. Number two, how often? Do you want to do it weekly or every other week, once a month? Also, whether you're interested in a leadership role, depending on, it doesn't really require 4 people, but it certainly requires 2 at least, maybe 3.
Yeah.
I don't know how Libby did it by herself, but she did, but that's Libby. So during the summer, we will meet with Sherry, see what the church is willing to offer in terms of facilitation or a minister or something. And also, but we will want to get more details from you as to what you might be interested in terms of attendance, in terms of content, location, and whether you're available to play a role in leadership. Let me ask the other elder buddies for any thoughts that you might want to share. Deborah, can I start with you?
Sure. Those are great questions, and we certainly need to look at that. I know there's a lot of intrigue around listening to people's stories, which has been wonderful. And we still have some members here who would welcome to tell their story at any point. We have done a lot of reaching out to some of the people you've suggested, and we're careful about not badgering people to say, do you want to tell a story? Do you want to tell a story? But we have asked a number of people who have declined or haven't responded. So it's not that we wouldn't love to welcome more people to tell the story, but we need more support, I think, from you and people to invite them to come if we're going to continue in this format. That would be really helpful, because each of us, of the elder buddies, have done a fair amount of asking without as much response as we might have hoped for.
Deborah. Mary?
One of the things that I'm wondering about, since we've heard from many people that you would like to continue in some fashion, one of the things I think we've talked about and are wondering about is if Elder Tree met less frequently than every Saturday, would that work? It would work in terms of less time involved in setting it up and getting the speakers, but would it work for the participants? Is the fact that it's every Saturday make it more worthwhile, and it would get lost if it was once a month or every 2 weeks? So we'll be really interested to hear from you when we now, certainly, or in a survey over the summer about frequency.
Thanks, Mary. Anita, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Right now, I was just considering whether there might be other things that people might like to do that haven't been done before, things that they want to talk about. I've mentioned with the other elder buddies that I've got lots of hobbies, and they fulfill certain spiritual needs for myself, and so that might be something that people would like to talk about a little further. And there might be other subjects. So when we send out that survey, if you can pass that along too, that might bring up other possibilities.
That would be excellent. Thank you. Well, we're at about 11 o'clock. I think it's probably time to wish everybody a happy and healthy summer. I think that having your Saturday mornings to do something else will be interesting to see what you do. And on behalf of the Elder Buddies, we want to say thank you for all the wonderful stories, the wonderful participation, and wishing you a really safe and healthy summer. And hopefully we'll get together again in the fall. So let's blow out our chalices and wish each other all good things in the weeks ahead.